So let's learn about Docker volume. So any data which you store in the container is temporary in nature, right? So so let's say we have a nginx container in our system, and nginx container is having some data stored inside it. The moment this container is deleted, the data which is stored in the container is lost. So that's the reason the containers are ephemeral. That means anything stored is in temporary. So, how to ensure that the data which we store remain persistent? So that's where the Docker volume comes into picture. So Docker volume is a persistent storage mechanism which is managed by the Docker that allows data to survive the container deletion. So why do we need Docker volumes? Because the moment the container is deleted, the data is lost, and we may want the data to live outside the life cycle of the container. And you may also want multiple containers to share the same data. And also it is useful for backup and restore. Okay. So let us understand how to create this specific volumes. So these are the commands to create the volume. So we have to mention docker volume, create my volume, and for listing we use docker volume ls. So let us run this commands and try to understand how to create the volumes. So we have here docker volume. Then let's say we want to create a volume for an nginx. So let's say I mentioned nginx volume. So you can just mention any name. So this is going to create the volume. To check which volumes are present in your Docker system, you can mention Docker volume ls. So this is showing the volume which we just created. So we can also inspect the volume. Also, we can remove the volume, but for the time being, we are not going to remove any volumes. And if you want to remove all the unused volume, you can use Docker volume prune. So let us try to understand this with an example. So let us have an nginx server in our system, and let us run that nginx server without any volume. So for that, we have to use this specific command. So let us say we have docker run. Let us run it in a detached mode. Let us give it a name like nginx, and let us run this on port, let's say 9004, and it is internally running on port number 80. And let us have the nginx image, which is the latest image which you can use, and this is going to run the nginx. Okay, so let us run this. So we had already had the image locally, so it is just going to take that image. So for example, we had already had the images locally, so it has used that image, or else it is going to download from the docker hub. Okay, so we have the docker nginx up and running on this specific port, which is 9004. Okay, so let us go to that port number here. So 9004 is, let us run this. So we can see we get the welcome page of the nginx. So let us try to modify it. So let us try to update the index.html of the nginx. Okay, so for that we have to go into the bash terminal. So for that we have to execute this specific command. So we have like docker execute. Let's mention the name of the container, and then let us go to the bash terminal here. Okay, so we are in the bash terminal. So let us go to that specific directory here, which is this one, which is /usr share. Let's see what are the volumes present here. Then we can have to go into the nginx. Okay, we have the HTML folder, and within that we have the index.html file. So let us update this. So let us add something like this. Let us mention simple like hello world. And let us update this index.html. Okay, so I hope this is updated, and you can also do index.html. You can see, yes, it is updated. So let us go back and let us refresh this page. So we can see we got our own custom index.html. So we have this. So let me delete this container, and and then again create the container, and let us see if we can get the same index.html or not. So we'll just exit from this bash here. Okay, and we'll do docker remove -f nginx. Okay, so this is going to remove the container. Okay, you can see we don't have the container now, and we can also check here. So this is not running now. So let us again try to create the container again. Okay, and let's see if we again try to create the container, and let us see if we can have the same thing again. Since we already deleted the container, it won't be there. So it has again created the container. Now obviously since we have deleted this, we won't be able to see that welcome hello world here. We will get the custom nginx image again. So this showcases that the moment you delete the container, whatever you stored inside the container, it is no longer there. So for that purpose, what we can do here is, okay, since we removed the container, the data got lost. So what we can do is we can run the container with the volume, okay, and then delete the container and then check. For that purpose, we already created the nginx volume, right? So we have already have the volume nginx here. We already have the volume. So let us use this volume. So what we'll do here is, so here while creating the container, right, we can mention the name of the volume here, nginx, and then we are going to mention the name of the path which we want to mount or replicate. So what is this specific path? Okay, so this is nothing but the default root directory of the nginx. This is a folder where all your html, cs, and js javascript files or images are stored. So in simple, what we can do is when we try to access this, right, so it is going to internally look at this specific file. So since we are actually updating this specific folder, so we want that any data which is written, which is written here, also should also be replicated to nginx. So let us go to this diagram here. So what we are trying to say is we have created the volume. So we are going to link. So we are going to link the internal folder, which is the HTML here, to this specific volume. So even though this volume, this content tomorrow gets deleted, the volume will remain there. And again, if you again create one more container representing a different color here, so that specific container can again access the data which is stored in this specific volume. So that is what we are trying to achieve here, right? So here, what we are trying to do here is we will mention the name of the path. Okay. For example, this is the name of the path which you mentioned in the document here. Okay, user share nginx HTML. So we're going to take this path and mention it here. Okay, and let us run this. So what is going to happen is any data update which is going to happen inside is also going to update in this specific Docker volume. So let us run this and try. Okay, it is telling that it is already in use. So okay, so let us do one thing. Let us create a new container nginx1. Okay, and then run it. So we have nginx1 running, and I think we have the container which is already running. So we are going to remove those container nginx, right? We're going to remove this first. Okay, we have removed this, and so let us run this again. Okay, and let us see. Okay, so we have the nginx running on this port number, so but with the volume. Okay, so let us go back here. So we have again the same custom HTML. So what we'll do right now is we'll again go into the bash cell of this, okay, and update the index.html here. So we're again going to the nginx, and we're going to the bash terminal here inside, and we're going to go to user share, sorry, visar share cd nginx, and go to HTML folder. Okay, now we have the index.html. So echo, then we have here updated this. Let's go back here and run it. So we have got a hello world. So let us now, what we need to do here, so let us now remove this. Let us exit from this bash, and we have to remove this container again. Okay, nginx. So we have right now deleted this specific container. So we can just check this out, and this container is no longer available. No longer available. So let us create this container again, and let us see if we can get the hello world again. Okay, so we're going back to the same command here, and we are again going to use the container. Again, we're going to use the volume which we created earlier, and this had all the data here. Okay, so let us run this. So we have the container up and running again on the same port number. So let us go back here. We can see we got the hello world now. We didn't get the custom nginx hello page here. We got the hello world which we are actually stored in the volume. So you can also go to the Docker desktop. So you can see the container is up and running. So we also have a folder called Docker volume, and also you can see that we can have all the volumes which are present here, which are stored like nginx. So all this is already present here. So it has created this specific volume. So actually we gave this as a volume name, nginx. So it has created this volume here, and it's having all the data present inside. Okay, it is having so this is what the data, shared data, it is having index.html, and this is what got updated. Okay, and there is one more use case, right? So for example, okay, so we can also create a volume, and we can create two containers which is going to share the same data. So in our case, right, so in our case we are having this container nginx which is running on this port number. So let us create one more container, and let us run this on port number 905, and let us run this on port number 905, and also we can just give it a different name here, like we mentioned it as index 2. We're using the same volume again. Okay, we're going to use the same volume again, and let us see what happens. So we have created the nginx, and we have two nginx containers. One is on 5 and one is on 4. So both of them are using the same volume. So let us see what happens here. So let me duplicate this, and let us mention here as 905. You can see 904 and 905 are using the same volume. Even though I created a new container on this port, but I provided what is the volume. So it has used the same volume here. You see, both are having the same. So that is what I was trying to explain here, that you can have a common volume which is going to allow you to share the data. So both the containers can actually take the data from the volume, which is demonstrated by this example. So that's it. We have learned here that what is the usage of the volume, so that it is so that the data can live outside the container lifecycle, and also multiple containers can also share the data, and also we can also use it for backup and restore. And so these are all the commands which you need to know: how to create a volume, how to remove the volume if at all you want to, and how to this also is very important as to how do you mention which volume to create, which volume to use using -v. You can mention the name of the volume, and also mention on which specific folder you want to sync it. This is how you can just mention the volume while running the container.